there's a decision that I believe you have to make for yourself. Nobody can do this for you. Nobody can tell you, because if anybody told you, then you'd have to depend on their authority going forward. You'd have to believe the thing because they told you to believe it, and that's no good. You have to insource it. So this pertains to what is happening to humanity right now. I'm speaking very broadly, politically, economically, environmentally, all the different ways. What is going on with humanity? What are we going through? What is happening? It's unnerving for a lot of us because there is broadly a sense with all of us throughout all of our cultures everywhere, a sense of collapse, impending doom, as if what we had, which was once solid, is getting very shaky and is threatening to collapse in on us. And as far as I can see, there are two major interpretations. One interpretation is that we are on the brink of something terrible. Everything is about to collapse, and we're going to revert back to an earlier version of ourselves, a feudalistic time, say, of tribalism and warfare and so on. And yet, an alternative interpretation of what's happening is that humanity is on the brink of a new level of evolution, and it's going through growth pangs. And that which feels like an imminent collapse is not a collapse of everything, but it is a collapse of an old, outmoded way of being that no longer applies to us, is no longer sustainable, is something that we are outgrowing as we reach higher for a new form of existence, a higher level of awareness, a higher level of consciousness. So it's up to you to choose which one. And I will tell you, if you haven't already guessed, I have chosen the latter. And it's not an arbitrary choice. It's how it appears to me. That's how I conduct myself. That's how everything seems. It seems to me that there is new awareness, new spirit, new consciousness that is emerging in a turbulent way in our humanity. And old ways of power, old ways of control that have worked before, that have been able to put us as a people into a place of sleepfulness, is working less and less. And so what we're witnessing is that drama, is the tectonic plates shifting. And so if that is indeed the case, then what is required is a lot of people, a lot of us, to bear witness to what's happening, to midwife this process as skillfully as we can. And so to that end, we're going to discuss one of the most important contributions that we can make as a people to this midwifery, which is indeed a word, midwifery. And yet, this isn't just about how to serve humanity, because at the exact same time, this basic skill set that we're going to get into is also what is required for you yourself to be grounded in your power and to be as empowered as you possibly can, to be in charge of your life, to dictate what happens, to be responsible for better outcomes in your life. It's the same thing, and we will discuss why. And so that topic today is being conscious and bearing witness. And so the title of today's talk is probably, I reserve the right to change my mind, no matter what, stay conscious and bear witness. We're going to talk about what that means exactly. I'm going to take us through an exercise to do that. So I'm going to take you through it so you can get a firsthand experience of what it means so that we can be on the same page about it, and then how to stay conscious. And then I'm going to give you some actual techniques, like real techniques that you can use that will work for you going forward. And then that will be a wrap. That's what we're here to do. So if we never met before, hello, my name is Brent. I'm a coach, a counselor, a healer. I help people out of chaos and into order, out of stagnation, into flow, and out of powerlessness and into self-empowerment. And so if that appeals to you, I offer one-on-one sessions. Your first one is free, and there is a link in the description below for you to check out. If you would kindly hit like on this video if you're interested in what we're about to do here, and I highly recommend that you subscribe, because this is what we talk about. We are on the path of self-actualization, personal evolution, awakening, and becoming the best that we can possibly be in this lifetime. So hit subscribe and let's get on with the party. So no matter what, stay conscious. Let's begin with an exercise. So being conscious, what does it mean to be conscious? To attain a higher level of state of consciousness, there's no action that you need to take. The biggest mistake that we would start with is to imagine yourself now being unconscious and trying to get yourself into that state as if there were a distance to cross. And instead, simply become aware now that you're conscious and that you always are conscious. The consciousness in you is that which is always bearing witness. That behind your eyes, behind your mind, behind your personality, behind your body, that which is constantly awake, that which is constantly looking. That which constantly looks is completely and utterly impartial. It is completely and utterly neutral. It observes what is happening with rapt attention. If it could speak, it would say, wow, wow, okay, okay, wow, okay. It is invulnerable in the same way that silence and emptiness cannot be harmed or gotten rid of. Like imagine trying to get rid of silence. You can obscure silence with noise, but you can't get rid of silence. Same with emptiness, stillness. These are the rule of the universe. They're just there. It just is. They just are. Effortlessly watching. Any attempt to find consciousness or be conscious is a movement away from consciousness. Therefore, the technique to become more conscious, somewhat paradoxically, is to simply be aware that you are. Another way is to recognize when you're unconscious. So what does it mean to be unconscious? Well, okay, strictly speaking, to be technical, you're always conscious no matter what. The light is always on. As long as you exist, the light is always there. Even in your sleep, even under anesthesia, where the consciousness can be withdrawn from the physical senses. But it's always there. The light of consciousness is always there. It's the rule. To be unconscious, aside from sleeping, aside from being under anesthesia, would be to be upset, to be in a reactive state, to be triggered. So if I say something and I hurt your feelings and I upset you, you are no longer yourself. There is programming that has been activated and you are in a state of pain. You're in a state of psychological pain. And then in that state of psychological pain, you're in a form of hypnosis. You're thinking about how mad you are at me, how bad you feel about yourself, what you need to do, how to get back at me. And now all of your attention, all of your attention is oriented around me and what had happened. You are now bound to me. You're bound to what I said. You are in a state of unwellness that remains that way until it's rectified, until maybe I say, hey, I'm sorry for doing that. And then I undo what I said, and then you return back to consciousness. Or unless in the moment of being upset, triggered, off-center, you say to yourself, wow, I'm really upset right now. Look at how upset I am. When you say, wow, look at how upset I am, your attention goes from that tunnel vision to the thing that made you upset. It returns to your own self, your own psychology. You become aware of your own unconsciousness. And that awareness of your unconsciousness is in that moment the onset of consciousness. That's why if you're ever upset and you say to yourself, wow, I'm so upset. Good Lord, I'm so upset right now. That moment, that awareness, and you saying it out loud to yourself or thinking it inwardly is the return of a meta layer of consciousness. And that consciousness dissolves the unconsciousness. It's waking up. It's not dissimilar to when you're in a dream and then you become aware that you're in a dream, and that kind of means you're about to wake up. It's a similar effect. So you can become more conscious and more conscious and more conscious. There's no bottom to how conscious you can become. You can say, I intend to become conscious now. I intend to become conscious of more. I wonder how deeply conscious I can become. You may say, there is unconsciousness in me now. There is anger in me now. There is sadness in me now. There's fear in me now. You might say, I am aware that I'm afraid. If this happens to be the case, I am aware that I am afraid. And by saying these things, contrary to popular belief, it doesn't mean that you are dwelling on anything. See, if we're upset or scared or angry or sad, we tend to avoid acknowledging it because we're afraid that if we acknowledge it, we will make it more real, and thus we will be dwelling on it and making it into a bigger deal than it is. This is not the case. By acknowledge, like it already is the case, like you already are afraid or upset or angry or triggered or jealous or in grief. It's already the case. And so by acknowledging it and acknowledging the intensity of it, and maybe acknowledging how deeply powerless you feel around your ability to change your state, this is the onset of a new level of consciousness. So you can say out loud, let's just say you're in grief about something. You may say, I'm in grief. I don't know how to feel okay. I don't know how to make this grief go away. I'm trying to make this grief go away. I feel despair around my lack of ability to make this grief go away. And you can see these are honest statements about the state of things, right? It's very truthful. And in that honesty, new consciousness comes online. You will know the new consciousness comes online when you feel a sense of relief, a sense of complexity melting away and yielding to a deeper simplicity, a sense of groundedness, a sense of wiping the slate clean, a sense of catching up with the present moment. It's like, okay, you're no longer coping with everything that happened last week and the week before, but you're sort of caught up. You've coped, you've processed. Everything is processed and you're here, you're on point, you're ready, you're poised. You're in the now. So my intention and my hope is that through this, there's a deeper sense of consciousness that has come online now. And so now it's pretty clear what we're talking about. So how to remain conscious? You can remain conscious by looking at everything that happens, like watching the news, all the stuff that's happening in the news, domestically, internationally, financially, economically. Everything that's tragic about it, everything that's scary about it, everything that produces fear and uncertainty. And your job now is to look at all of that and go, okay, this is what's happening. There is a popular belief deep in our culture. It's in the water. It's what we all think. We think that our unconsciousness is our contribution to the world. We think that by being upset and by taking a stance against what's happening, whichever political leaning you're on, by taking that stance and by being outraged and angry and upset, that we are contributing, we're fighting back, we are making things better. But what you can observe internally is that inside of your psychology, whenever you're against what's happening in your psychology, it doesn't make anything better. It actually adds an extra layer of unwellness. It creates trench warfare between the two different aspects. So returning to this idea of grief, if you're in grief and you're trying to not be in grief, then it's you against grief. And then grief becomes deeper entrenched and you become deeper entrenched. And a war is born out of nothing. Suffering is born where there was not any before. Grief is an unwellness that can be healed if you bear witness to it by not contesting it, not opposing it. So you look at grief and go, okay, there's grief. I permit there to be grief. I allow myself to be in grief. I allow myself to experience grief. And you bear witness to the experience of grief. And if you do it with infinite patience and impartiality, then grief is healed and the energy behind it is recycled and reincorporated into the gestalt of your larger system. I talk a lot about this on my channel. Check out my video on healing. And so the same thing applies when there's outrage around what's happening in the world. Now, a common argument at this point is, well, say, Brent, are you asking me to just not do anything and become passive as everything happens? No, not necessarily. If there is an action for you to take, then you should take it. So if, let's just say there is a local politician in your state. I'm Canadian, but a lot of the news is coming out of America, so we'll go with America. You want to get in touch with a local representative on the municipal or federal level, and that strikes you as something that you're willing to do and is a good idea, then do it. Do it. And take strong, forceful action. Write a very persuasive email or letter, or show up at a town hall and make a very convincing case. Take action indeed. None of this is about not taking action. Start a nonprofit. Take certain measures to keep yourself and others safe. Do whatever you have to do. But my big claim here is that you can take action from consciousness or from a state of unconsciousness. If you take action from anger, rage, or fear, if you find yourself afraid and taking action from fear, you're going to get the lower version of it. You're going to get a worse version of it, and you will be creating damage and suffering even sort of concomitantly as you produce helping benefit. The helping benefit is often canceled out. Furthermore, when you take action from an unconscious state, you tend to regress consciously as well into a form of tribalism and us versus them. We regress to good guy, bad guy. And whenever we do good guy, bad guy, and we project bad guy on somebody else or a group of people, regardless of what form it takes, then trench warfare begins again. Then it's us versus them. And whenever I'm trying to get rid of them or vanquish them, then I actually end up empowering them. And I make my whole thing about them. I'm trying to get rid of them. And now I'm in a state where I can never be well until the good triumph, until the good guys win. It's a needy state. It's a heavy psychology to operate from. And we are in a state of suffering the whole time, and we are generating suffering for ourselves and others as we go about it. This is what happens when we act from unconsciousness. Whether you are in a state of action or in a state of stillness, when you are conscious, you are bearing witness to what happens. When you bear witness to what happens, healing can take place. To bear witness is to be impartial. It's to be non-reactive. I'm deep in my psychology degree, learning how to be a therapist. And it's so funny, there's all these different theorists that are offering the same piece of advice. Bear witness. Somebody comes in with their pain, with their unwellness, with their trauma, with their fear. The worst thing you can do as a therapist would be to descend on it immediately and say, and to try to get rid of their sadness, to try to fix it. This is almost psychology 101. This is a common thing that we now realize, even though it wasn't so obvious, say 20 or so years ago, but we all know this out in the world, that if somebody is afraid or upset or unconscious or shy, if you attack that unwellness, you make it worse. You create trench warfare. So stay conscious and bear witness. Bear witness to what's happening. Being upset is not your contribution. Being angry is not a contribution. Being angry does not improve anything. This is something that I'm not asking you to take on faith. I'm asking you to see very deeply, because again, in our culture, we feel like being angry and upset, we claim that it causes us to be motivated. It lights a fire in our belly, and we'll say this kind of thing, and it makes us motivated to go out and do the right thing. But dude, you are already motivated. Unconsciousness and upsetness is sort of a parasite in that way. It takes credit for something that it did not do. It's in a similar way where we say fear, like for those of us who experience a lot of fear and anxiety, the reason why we, almost every single time, the reason why we sustain such anxiety and fear all the time is because we really do believe, if push comes to shove, like if you're really backed into a corner, you would say that being afraid keeps me safe. As long as I'm afraid, I'm safe because I'm extra alert and I'm like looking out for things that could go wrong. And so therefore, I have to be afraid. If I'm not afraid, then I'm extra vulnerable and I don't want to be vulnerable. So therefore, I stay afraid. But being afraid and being angry produce either no results or the worst possible forms of efficacy or safety. It's important that you see yourself as a contribution to this, because our old culture, and by this I'm referring to the dominant kind of culture, I'm referring to old powerful paradigms, psychology that comes from on high to down low, control psychology, mass control psychology. They would prefer that we see ourselves as disempowered. They would prefer that we see ourselves as disconnected from everything and therefore looking on helplessly as all these things go on that are distressing and troubling. But of course, this is not the case. You and I are connected to everything in our networks. The effect that you and I have on our friends and our neighbors and on our community ripples outward. If we are unconscious and in a state of suffering and causing suffering, regardless of what the intention is behind that suffering, because whenever we cause suffering, it's never with the intention of causing suffering, it's always with the intention of doing right and doing good and allowing good to triumph the day. That suffering ripples outward. If I cause suffering in you, you are likely to cause suffering in somebody else, unless you are extremely conscious yourself. But by contrast, if I remain conscious and bear witness, and I'm not upset, and I'm not in fear, and I'm deeply grounded and centered in myself, then I can act as a tuning fork for you to remember your wellness, your centeredness, your fearlessness, your consciousness. And then that passes on outward as well. And so therefore, by staying conscious, my contribution is that I'm establishing a node of consciousness that ripples outward. I'm signaling it is okay to be conscious. I'm signaling that being conscious is preferable to being unconscious. I'm signaling in a deep way all is well. I'm signaling that there's nothing to be afraid of. And that you yourself can claim right now, there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to be afraid of. And you say, yeah, Brent, but this, and that, there's all these things going on. And I say, like, let's begin with right now. The only thing that exists right now, there's nothing to be afraid of. And whatever does come down the pipeline, whatever is coming to us tomorrow, next week, next month, we will be conscious in that moment too. And in our consciousness, we will alchemize that moment, just as we're alchemizing this moment, into gold. Every moment, therefore, becomes an opportunity to meet skillfully, to show up skillfully, conscious, to look at everything as it's configured right now and say, yes, okay, all right. Okay, this is happening, that's happening, this is over here, that's over here, pretty fucked up, all of it's fucked up, okay, all right, let's go, okay. How do I respond now? What shall I choose now? See, when we're in reaction, it's like, okay, like all of this needs to be fixed and then I can breathe. No, oh, sorry, I hit my mic there. It's no good. It's no good. Whenever we make a condition, whenever we put conditions in place around which we can finally feel okay and breathe easy, this is no good. We want to show up with everything as it is now and say, okay, what can I create from here? Notice the proactive freshness of it. Look at how deeply in touch with my own creativity and wisdom I am when I say, okay, what now? What now? What shall I do now? How shall I move now? What is the situation requesting? How can I meet this situation as it is? Bear witness and hold space. A Matt Kahn technique is to say, even now, I love myself more, not less. Even now, even as this happens, I love myself more, not less. Even as the news is indicating XYZ, I love myself more, not less. Another technique is to say, okay. It's a very powerful technique. The word okay means that you have digested the moment. It means you're caught up. It means you're up to date. It means you're here. When you say, okay, okay, yeah, okay, 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 okay. Now, as I said before, this is your contribution to humanity. You are a conscious node. This is also your contribution to yourself. Because if you're not saying okay, if you're in a reactive mindset, then you can't see the opportunity that's available now. You cannot create success for yourself out of yesterday's opportunities or in a reality that you think should be, right? All of us are trying to create opportunity in a reality that we feel like we're supposed to be in, other than this one, right? So by being conscious, you are also empowered to find opportunity now, to make things better now. You realize your own invulnerability. You become aware of the part of yourself that is not affected by everything. Because there is a part of you that is affected by everything, of course. I'm affected by everything. Sometimes there is fear. Sometimes there is anger and outrage, sadness. All of that does come up. But there's also something in me and in you that is not affected by these things. And our big thing is to remember that part. Often. Be in touch with that part often. If you'd like some assistance with that, then get yourself a free one-on-one session. Learn about it in the link below. Please hit like on that video. So appreciate it. Become a subscriber if you're not already. And then finally, I have a free resource on self-actualization. It's free. Just go to my website, opt in, and you'll get it. There's a follow-up video series too, which is really good. I don't talk about it a lot because it's sort of like an extra free gift, but it's there for you. It's there for the taking. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Talk to you soon.